bridges, if I could. Commissioner Fox is interested in your testimony in this regard, and Director Trombino, maybe these are questions best directed to you. As I think you know, MAP 21 made significant changes to the way we fund bridges. Prior to MAP 21, all bridges were eligible for the Highway Bridge Program. That program was eliminated, consolidated with 4 other programs into 2 new programs, the National Highway Performance Program and the Surface Transportation Program. And here's where it gets a little confusing, but under the new rules, 2/3 of the money goes to the program that supports 23% of the bridges, and 1/3 of the money goes to the program, the Surface Transportation Program, that supports 77% of the bridges. So the question is how's that working for the counties, and how's it working in states like Iowa? And I'm working right now on legislation, bipartisan legislation, that would restore funding eligibility to all of the nation's bridges, regardless of how they're designated, and would also fix some of the funding levels. But I'm very interested in your thoughts on how the funding of bridge repairs is being affected by these changes in MAP 21 and what we should be doing about it.
Thank you for the question, Congressman. On a county level, there is a problem. We've got too many bridges that need repair. So first of all, we need reauthorization of MAP 21, and we need to find a way to fill some of the funding gaps that was created with the last program. As my own county, we probably put 4 or 5 bridges in the file waiting for a program to see if they qualify. So everything is shovel ready, and if the money comes, we've got the project. And so it is to come up with a system that we can get the money out and get it to the counties.
And is that because most of those bridges are eligible only for funding under the Surface Transportation Program, where there's fewer dollars and more competition for those dollars?
Competition is the big thing.
And is it therefore reasonable to think that if we restore the eligibility of those bridges to funding under either program, you'd get more bridges done?
We hope that would be the scenario, yes.
And if you could, and you know, I should say, in my own part of the world, in the Hudson Valley of New York, we have, I believe, 67 bridges that are structurally deficient. I've been to these bridges. I've seen firsthand the frustration of the local officials on this. And what's it mean in a state like Iowa, Director Trombino?
A structurally deficient number of bridges, we have a significant amount in our state. As I like to say, we have 5,000 structurally deficient bridges out of 25,000. The vast majority are on the local system. We only have 105 on the entire state system. So this is a predominant local issue, which is why when we saw MAP 21 and some of the flexibility of the dollars, like TAP, we passed all of those dollars to the locals, and that gave them the flexibility to use those because they could use it on bridges if they chose to. So to let them set that priority, we thought it was very important that, in our case, the Transportation Commission not set that priority, pass that to the locals, let them figure that out, and let them make those decisions. And we would also support, and I think AASHTO supports that, for those bridges that aren't eligible. Again, let's let the locals make that decisions. They know which are the right ones. And unfortunately, and this is the conversation we've had in our state, all the bridges aren't affordable. I can't fix 25,000 bridges in our state. It's not affordable, and honestly, we're not willing to pay for that. So we have to figure out which are the right ones. And at the end of the day, we think the locals are the right ones to make that decision on the local system. We want to work with them to help them make those good decisions.
And just so I'm clear, for the record, so therefore legislation like what I'm proposing, again, bipartisan legislation that would restore funding eligibility to all these bridges regardless of designation, and that would fix some of the funding levels in the NHPP program and Surface Transportation Program, you'd support that legislation?
Yes.
And just in the closing time I have, let's say we do nothing on this, and it's allowed to persist under the current formulas. What would the effect of that be in places like Iowa, in places like the rural counties you've been discussing, Mr. Fox? Go ahead. Either one.
I guess if we do nothing, the problem will only get worse. And the collapse that we witnessed in Minnesota back in 2005, which was in a metropolitan area, someday will happen in a rural area just as well. It might not be with rush hour traffic and busloads, but there will be a semi-load of grain or be a piece of machinery, a large piece of machinery, because it is very important that we keep our bridges up and our transportation put together. and that's why we need the reauthorization of the MAP 21.
What I was going to say is it's a severe economic impact. When you look at the local system with non-contiguous farming and the way the operations, especially in the rural area, function, those bridges become major impediments for them from a movement perspective, which add cost to the products, which likely at some point will make them not competitive in a global marketplace. So economics is the most important issue here, and I don't think from an economics perspective we can afford for you not to deal with the funding and move forward with the program.
Thank you very much. Yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Webster.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.